Welcome to my Kiff Nomadic Journal podcast. I'm Miss Kiff, a full-time digital nomad entering my fourth year of travel. My journey started with van life, self-converting a Vauxhall Vivaro whilst living in it full-time. That tiny home taught me simplicity, resilience, and freedom, especially after losing my mother just before moving in. In May 2024, I sold my van and embraced full-time travel, exploring Thailand, Italy, Laos, Portugal, Vietnam, India, and beyond, chasing a higher quality life for low-cost lifestyle, healing, and building my business. Join me as I share the real raw highs and lows of nomadic living. Let's dive in. Hi, Kiffners, and welcome back to my Kiff Nomadic Journal. Now, this podcast used to be my van life perspective podcast, but unfortunately, there is no more van. There's no more van life. Can you believe it? So, if this is your first time here and you've never heard of me before, my name is Tasha, aka Miss Kiff, and I have changed my life to live a more nomadic lifestyle. And it started with van life. It started in 2022, and it's just been one massive adventure into the present moment. This episode is really just to kickstart the podcast again because I love talking, firstly. But what I love the most is I love talking about my experiences, right? And the intention here is that I can help inspire you or some entertainment value out of my experience, basically. So if this is your first time here, please do follow me because it really helps me out. And let's get into this episode. The intention of me starting van life was I had always dreamed of something better. And for me, freedom is a big thing, right? I don't like to be fixed. I don't like to be controlled. I like to do what I want when I want. That's kind of like my type of vibe. Why van life really accelerated the journey so quick was actually my mum passing. When my mum passed, it made me realize, okay, if I don't take life right now the way I want to, I'm going to have too many regrets. And I think for me, regret is just not taking a risk or making a choice, right? You've made the wrong choice, or you regret something because you didn't do something, right? So don't regret it, do it. And if you fail, what's the worst that can happen, right? You just go back to what you can do. I started this journey and with the intention of let go of fear, like F-U-C-K, fear. Face the fear and do it anyway. That was my motto, my driving force of this nomadic life. Now, the reason why I don't really fit into this 9 to 5 malarkey, this society, because firstly, I've not been successful at it, right? You can look at the numbers. I have always got depressed when I'm in a job. It's boring, it bores me. I will work my way up into whatever position, the highest position, and then I'll realize, you know what, this is a lot of work for not the enjoyment that I want. I'd rather put the same energy into building something of myself. So I remember when I was in hospitality, there was a quote of, you could either build your own dreams or you can help build someone else's dream. And that really hit hard for me. I was like, man, there's no way I want to build someone else's dreams if I'm neglecting my own. Why not build my own, right? I embarked on this nomadic life and I used to obsess with watching van life and traveling. So how I really stepped into this nomadic life was romanticizing. Honestly, romanticizing is one of my secret sauce recipes. Some people call it delusional. I call it manifestation, okay? If you can dream the life you want to live, it's very easy for you to surround yourself by these little, these environments. This is where the nomad life comes in. And a nomad life is really subjective to a lot of people, but I just think it's the choice of freedom and the choice of what you want to do when you want to do it and where you want to do it, especially. So I spent I'm half British, half South African. I spent half my life in South Africa. I grew up 18 years of my life here. I took a one way to the UK, and I lived there for my second half of my life. 14 years of my life. So I evolved into a woman in the UK, but I grew up as a teenager in South Africa. So I would say I've had the best of both worlds. So I've been able to really, it's like the UK has a lot of resources that is really good for growth. I think I definitely want to, because you'll hear me not talk highly of the UK in terms of my mental mood, but I want to make a point that the UK is incredible for so many resources, for freedom. Like, as an independent 18 years old, I could have built my life. Yes, I failed a lot, but the fact is that I've been able to, by me leaving South Africa, it gave me more independence. And with independence, you get more opportunity. And I just never would have been successful in South Africa. Like, of course I would have, but I think it would have been to my detriment to my health. And I'm not about that life. I saw my mum and my dad both suffer, like grinding to the point, no thank you. Again, I grew up with people really grinding hard. And I was like, man, I don't want to be like that when I'm older. From a young age, I've always had this fire in me, okay, of I can live a better life. This fight for freedom, and just, I knew that my mind and my intelligence was the driving force of me. So I used that to my advantage. And I would say in my 20s, I just felt like I was chasing a career where I didn't even know what that looked like. So I would test out a lot of things, and DJing gave me the opportunity to travel. So this is where the travel bug started for me. I got to really travel the world with DJing. It was incredible. And then I was like, man, I want to do this more often. But obviously, we lived in a world where remote working wasn't a norm. So at this point, I knew this was what my heart called, but then I went back into society's old paradigms. And I remember I achieved, like, I had the boyfriend, I had the dog, I had the job, I had everything. And then I remember at the age of, I think 24 it was, or something like that, I was like, is this it? Have I reached my peak? So I have had definitely life moments where I've been like, nah, guys, something's not right here, something's not right at all. And then obviously being able to watch everybody online. So YouTube was the biggest factor for me, because YouTube gave me access to other people living this life. And also with being in the UK and DJing, I got to meet so many people that was traveling, lived in Asia, like, did these creative jobs. I'm like, I always used to think like, this is so cool, I want this. And then obviously with YouTube, I got to romanticize, so I got to dream a lot. Basically, the pandemic happened, I had a massive reset. In the age of 30, I was like, no, 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 no. Everybody's progressed in their life but me, and it's time that I change my life. So this is around the time my mum was getting ill, like had a heart attack actually just before my 30th birthday, and then things like rapidly changed after that. So up until this point, I had been chasing my dream life, like figuring out what does that mean to me. Like, I don't know where I belong, firstly. I've been in the UK, and the UK is a hard place to be, especially if you like are foreign. I would say, like, at the end of the day, I'm half British, but I'm still foreign, yeah. And I didn't fit in. Loads of people go, I don't know, I don't recognize your accent. Where is it from? And I go, yeah, because in hospitality, I had to change the way I spoke, because a woman or a man said, you better speak proper English. And I was like, but I am speaking proper English. Like, I'm South African and we speak English in South Africa. And it's based on British syllabuses and stuff. Anyway, so I ended up changing my accent and changing me. But not intentionally. It was just so that people would understand me better, because I felt insecure. I didn't want to lose my job and things like that, you know. So culturally, I had to almost quiet my energy, dim my light, as they say. I always used to be surrounded by loads of, like, everybody was always 10 years older than me in my friendship group or my business group, because I felt them way more, like, my mind is way more curious to learn from them and experience from them. Nevertheless, my nomadic journey really started through curiosity, right, of wanting to have a better life. And that's more with just the freedom and just to connect and feel more like myself. You know, I knew this was the answer, but I didn't know how to get there. So when van life came around, van life I started already with my ex. He had a sound system and we used to travel a lot together. And I remember when he said to me, "Oh, would you ever live in a van?" And I was like, I could never live in a van full time. The irony in that. So it's just hilarious. Like, I obviously can and have. And this is where the kind of the trend of lifestyle came. So I think from my breakup in 2017, my life was I was just lost. I think I was just lost for good 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. 4 years. 4 years of just like, what the hell has happened to my life? When my mum passed, that was the pinnacle moment. That was when I felt like my whole life flashed before me. I was like, man, you've done so much. Why? Like, honestly, I have done almost everything in the world possible that's illegal, for money. And why am I still this 30-year-old woman, broke as hell, lost as hell, feeling like I want to end my life type of vibe? Do you know what I mean? Like, life was terrible. So I decided to take a risk on driving into a master's, then getting into van life. And van life was the best decision of my life. So would I recommend van life? 100%, just for the personal growth perspective and like giving you the perspective of another option. I think when the best thing for me is when I moved into the van, and then the cost of living went up. Like, being in people's homes where they can't even afford heating, where my van is hotter than a house, and I'm paying no bills, people. I'm only paying for my insurance and my food. Like, my cost of living was £400 a month. Banging. Obviously, with the mechanics, that was the biggest issue for me. If you followed my journey, and if you haven't, I do have a whole van life series of year 1 and year 2 of my van life. So please go check it out. It's my beginner stages of editing, so the videos aren't the best, but the context is great. You know, before I used to think like maybe I should separate the channel and just like, you know, blah, 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 blah. But no, it's part of me. This is part of my nomadic life. I was very ambitious to start a podcast, especially in that time frame. So let's just accelerate it, because I don't really want to give you a full autobiography of myself, to be honest. I just wanted to give you some context as to kind of the core as to why this nomadic journey meant so much to me. And that was just pure happiness and finding my sense of belonging, right, in the world. Because South Africa isn't it full time, UK isn't it full time, so where is it else? You know, that's my biggest question in life. Let's just fast forward. If you want to listen more or dive deeper, if you want me to dive deeper into anything as well, please do comment down below. I would love to dive deeper. This is what the podcast is about. The podcast intention is always to go deeper than what the episodes can allow, and whatever you're curious to know about as well. Because there's a lot. Van life became a struggle, right? There is two different elements of van life. Van life is like very, the Instagrammable version where everybody's got, those vans cost 50,000-60,000 pounds, yeah? And if you're building it yourself, maybe 20,000-30,000, okay? But that's still quite a bit of money in terms of where I was at. I started with what I had, and what I had wasn't great for, it was good enough, but it wasn't great for the freedom of full-time travel. So I think the furthest I ever went was North Wales, and I went to Snowdon. That was it. And Tunbridge Wells. That was the furthest from Cardiff that I could actually be mobile with. But that wasn't the goal with van life. The goal with van life was freedom of roaming, and to be able to pay off my debts and have a low cost of living, right? That was like a good stepping stone, I always felt. And like for me, I spent so much time in the mountains. It was such a healing process for me. And I spent so much time at Stonehenge. Like I was like literally loving it. I remember sleeping for 2 days straight in my van and just felt completely safe. It was incredible. But the UK is a very challenging place to do van life. It's not the easiest, and there's also a lot going on outside, especially with the cost of living and things like that. Like life was dodgy all the time. I honestly, I am writing a book about it. Van life is incredible, as I said before. I feel like the community was everything to me, especially going through grief. I took on a lot. Like for me, when the going gets tough, I get going. You know what I mean? Like I'm a runner. I love to run. I run from everything. I run from myself. I love denial. Denial is good to get things done, and then I come back to the stuff that I need to face, okay? So denial and running is a great way to protect myself and my emotions. And at the time, I needed to focus. Like, my mother's just passed away. I had to convert a van. I had to build a business. I need to just accelerate life to freedom, to the point of happiness, because it's either I do this or I end life, because life is not like, I'd rather not live than live a life of slavery, modern day slavery. Hell no, it's not for me. It's not for me, love. Sorry, I resign. So I feel like a lot of people, they said to me, oh, how can you live in a van? Like, aren't you scared? I'm like, no, there's no worse fear than being a slave to the world. Do you know what I mean? At least I can defend myself in my van or drive away. I don't want to be stuck in bricks and mortar. No, thank you. Paying council tax, paying this, paying that. You're just paying. You're living to pay. No, I refuse. So there was a moment in van life where I had to really question my intentions about van life and who I surrounded myself with, because there is a lot of drama in the van life community, and I'm not about that drama life. Like, yes, I always find myself situations where drama comes to me and I go, what the hell? And then I leave, because I'm like, no, this is not the vibe I signed up for. So there was an element where, but I reflect on that situation as I wasn't mentally well, like, meaning I was just lost mentally, going through grief, and I felt like I got taken advantage of a little bit in that moment. I had to step away from a situation, and I'm so grateful for my van life friends, for my community, who had my back, and I just removed myself. Like, as I said before, if I find myself in a situation where I do not feel comfortable, I remove myself. So that was kind of like the first year of my van life experience. And the second year was for me figuring out, what am I actually doing here? Because a lot of my content you will see, there's just me just in my everyday life of van life and living and things like that, but I'm suffering underneath it all, and I'm just really using YouTube as a tool for me to guide me through all these obstacles that I'm facing. But it's also my anchor. YouTube is my anchor, has been my anchor. It's been my consistent driver. It means a lot to me. The community means a lot to me. The platform is incredible, and the opportunity it brings. Like, I met, come on, Leon the Terrible. Like, everybody is so bad to this guy, and well, not everybody, but some people just out to get him because they're probably jealous of his lifestyle. But this guy is so nice. He's so nice. Like, he supported me so much. And even now, when I went to go visit him again, it's like, man, I've got loads of time just because I'm out of the van life lifestyle. I'm not someone who forgets who had my back, hey? Like, for anybody listening to this podcast, if you've been a part of my journey, I don't forget you. I just have other missions to conquer. Because life doesn't stop with van life, I don't just settle with one. If I've done something, I don't just settle on that goal. I move on to the next goal. I've always got an endless bucket list of goals to achieve. Anyway, drifting a little bit. When I would say 2023, when I was managing that campsite and I started this podcast, I remember in that moment, I was like, what am I doing here? Because I'm not happy with what van life, like, my van life experience isn't that fairy tale that most people dream of at this point. I'm battling mechanics, I'm managing cash flow, I'm feeling like I'm getting depressed, to be honest with you. And being at that campsite was so beautiful because I thought to myself, okay, next year I'll come back here as a backup plan. And the Deer Park, 100% go there. They are absolutely amazing, the founders, and I really, again, valuable people on my heart that I completely treasure. That was the best 4 months for me in van life over a long period of time, because I was fixed and I could just live out my van, which felt really cool. And I was meeting loads of people internationally. And so if you've lived in a van, you would know that you need a break from van life too. Being full-time in a van all the time is full on, especially if you can't stand in it. There's no toilet, there's no shower. It's just constant. I'm already a constant logistics thinker. To add a lifestyle that you constantly have to think about, it's a full-time job. So at this point, I was like, right, we need to go back to Wales. We need to work as hard as possible to get the money to go to Thailand, and then we figure it out from there. And this is where I want to just accelerate the journey a bit. So financially, I was self-employed. I started in February 2023, and that's where I decided, okay, I know I need, for freedom, I knew in my mind I have to work for myself, okay? But I don't have all the tools set up yet because my mind is not clear because of grief. And van life is giving me an opportunity to be free, but it's still, my client base was fixed to a point, you know what I mean? So I was working for myself, but I wasn't really have the freedom to move around yet. I was in the van, but I couldn't be too mobile because mechanically it wouldn't allow me to. So I was really still in this gray area and transitioning from, I was living a nomadic life because I'm not in the traditional sense in a house. But I want more freedom. That's the goal here. More freedom is important. Van Life Eats Big Picnic, and I met two van lifers called Vera and Alicia, and we were talking. We just spoke for I think an hour maybe or more at the matcha stand, yeah. And we were just blah, 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 catching up. They were like, you're so funny, blah, blah, blah. We can resonate. Let's go. And then they spoke to me about house sitting, trusted house sitters. And I was like, actually, that's not a bad point. Because I was like, man,
van life is just sometimes a struggle. Sometimes you just want to be in a house temporarily, but you also like you don't. It's like, I don't know how to explain it until you're in it, right? Like, I don't mind van life, but doing it full time all the time when you don't have the setup is not the best. So I was looking for other options to help, right? I'm very problem solving all the time. I always think that we can achieve something 1% better than what it is. So they suggested this. So to be on Trusted Houses, you have to pay like 100 quid. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that, because you're also not guaranteed to get house sitting jobs. So I was like, do you know what? I know a lot of people. I've got about 4,500 people on my Facebook, because over the years of me being in the UK and traveling and blah, 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 there is someone somewhere that's got a house for sure and it's got a pet. So I put on a post on Facebook, and I literally had like over 100 likes and comments and things like that, of loads of people wanting me to, like, thank you so much, we will get back to you type of vibe. So I did actually have a few friends get back to me. So during the time of my second year of van life, I started to house sit. So my friends in Bristol, I had every boat sat with a cat, so looked after cats, looked after dogs in Oxfordshire. So this was amazing for me. So it was such a great way for me to take a break from van life and just ground a little bit in a home, because again, I really needed it, especially in the winter time. Winters were tough in the van, like -3. I had a portable power station, 700 watts, and the electric blanket was running at 25 watts. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. One for the books, one for the camp, one for the grandkids. Anyway, so at this point, I was just on a mission to make extra money. So I got paid with dog sitting, and that paid for my trip to Thailand. And also, I made like 4 times my salary in December. So that money paid for Thailand and paid for a new phone, which I was so happy for, because it had been years and I didn't want to get a contract. So I bought my phone cash, which was a goal of mine, and I got to achieve that, which is brilliant, really. And then Thailand happened. So up until this point, I knew, because I had been working every day, people. The job never stopped. So I had lived in my van for 7 months, self-converted it with the help of the van life community, of course, because I didn't know how to work a jigsaw or drill or nothing like that, because my dad's in South Africa and I've got no dad in the UK. So I needed to find men to help me, teach me, which I did. And I'm so grateful for Tom, for Simon, even Zoe, and just so many incredible people in the UK, like Darren, that group of the South Central van build, having an opportunity to actually, like, there's a community of people driving their vans in an open field and skill sharing. How cool! How freaking cool! Like, honestly, I love the fact that I am a curious cat, and I'm very open-minded. So I've seen all walks of life of people, and we listen and we don't judge. I love it. I love it. People are wild. I'm all for it. I also had this false reality that YouTube would fix everything for me. And I think it's important for me to admit this. Like everybody else in the van life community, start a YouTube about van life and you'll just grow. I think the videos that grow are the pretty van lifers, not the realistic van lifers, unless you're native to the country. So obviously me, I'm foreign, I'm a woman, I've got not the best looking van. Aesthetically, that was a work in progress, man. But what I do love is that I did build up a little bit of a community, and I obviously appreciate you all. That I even got a message, a comment saying, I watch you from the van life days, what it's like earning money whilst traveling. So I really appreciate it, right? I do value everybody that watches, but I think for me, in my mind, YouTube would have helped me in that time to take that financial stress off me, because I didn't have anybody in the UK, and that's why I decided to live in a van, because I was like, man, this is mine. At least I own this, this is me. So there was a lot of ego battles of the self that I needed to go through as well. But that is just a false reality, everyone. There's not one thing that will fix all your problems. It's a journey, and you have to grow towards it. This is all part of your, like, everything we go through is part of our storybook of life, right? No one's got to figure it out. Everybody's journey is unique, and I think that's what's important here. So I escaped to Thailand for I needed it. I really needed Thailand. Like, I can't even stress. Like, Thailand was a pinnacle moment, just like the Van Life Eats was a pinnacle moment when I got given a free ticket to the festival. Just though that pinnacle moment helped me build my van, and connect to people. So I feel like these little highlighted moments in my journey has been very key for my growth and success, really. And yeah, I'm going to end this episode here. I want to continue the journey and talk about more about my Thailand experience, because Thailand was wild, and there is just so much to talk about. And I love talking about Thailand because Thailand gave me so much. And I think what's important to note as well is that it opened my awareness to, like taking a leap of faith of moving into a van opened the awareness of, whoa, cost of living is cheaper, and people been doing van life in the UK for years. I can do this. If they can do this, I can do this. So that was the first step of taking that risk to live in a van. And then it's like, when you go travel and you've already been working towards, the self-employment, and you're testing the waters every time. Okay, just a little bit longer, you're going to stay away, just a little bit longer, and see if you can make it work. It's amazing how these little moments that I've done for myself opens it up, and I get to be one step closer to my goal of freedom. So that's been my Kiff Nomadic Journal episode 1. And I've had to change it from my Van Life Perspective podcast into my Kiff Nomadic Journal, because obviously I no longer live in a van, and I'm not going to live in a van anytime soon, everyone. Nope, because I'm building a business, and Van Life had a very impactful, a negative influence on my health. I will go into that in another episode at some point if you want to hear about it. But we definitely want to talk about Thailand soon, for sure. So subscribe to my Kiff Nomadic Journal, and this is just the podcast where I want to there's no script. Yeah, there's no script. There's no fancy things. There's just me talking to camera. The intention of this podcast is to understand how I'm cracked my own code, I suppose, and then how other people are cracking their own codes, like everybody's nomadic experience is different. Some people do it for a short duration as a stepping stone into their life. Other people do it full time all the time. Other people are doing it as a slow travel thing. There's just so many versions of it, and I think it's important for us to note it and for me to share it. Like, I just want this podcast to be of value to you, really. If you're curious, if you're kind of like if you're not happy with life, I think it's important for you to know that you can be happy. Did you know you can be happy? And I used to watch YouTubers say the same thing to me, and I've done it. And now I feel like I've been past that button, the nomadic button of keep sharing your story. It's important because everybody else needs to hear it too. So that's really the vibe. Yeah. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast episode. If you want to hear more about anything, just comment down below, and please subscribe as well. I've got a newsletter, my Kiff Nomadic channel. Until the next one. Ciao, ciao. Oh, episode 2, I'm interviewing Miss Deary. I met her in Vietnam, and she's super cool, and I can't wait to share it with you.